So welcome everybody to the Developer Associate Series. This is session number 4. I'm Diana Gray. I'm the Community Marketing Manager for UiPath Americas. And our sponsors and partners on this topic are Manjula and Ravathi. They're from Her Next Innings, and they support us in all different kinds of ways in the background, and partner with us in career development. And then we also have Anna Maria, who works with the community department along with me. She's my colleague out of Romania, and she does a lot in the background as well, just to make sure the forum is all set, the series pages is all in place and all that. So we're happy to have everybody on the team here. I just want you to know that this is session 4, where we'll be talking about the Selectors PDF project organization and email automation. We still have 4 more sessions over the next 2 weeks to go through. So I will put a URL to the next session so you guys can make sure you're registered for session number 5. We're going to keep going. And then just a reminder that after session 8, we're going to give you an additional month to finish all your self-paced training because there's some extra steps that we'll be going through with you on session 8. So today I'm happy to say that we have Atul here speaking with Logesh. I'm going to let them introduce himself. We also have Rahul here. So can the 3 of you please introduce yourselves? Atul, do you want to start?
Definitely. Thank you so much, Diana. Hello, everyone. My name is Atul Trikha. I'm the 4 times UiPath MVP. I'm also part of Ohio chapter leader. I am a chief technologist for Peraton and working on many state and public sector projects. And happy to have you all here. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Logesh. I am from Qbotica. I'm a technical architect at Qbotica. I've been using UiPath platform for almost 5 years now, and I typically help customers with scaling and growing their UiPath automation platform. I'm happy to present this session, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me post the session as well. Happy to help.
Great, thank you. And Rahul?
Yep, good morning, everyone. Happy to be here. I work for a company called Elucian. We are a UiPath customer, and I'm the UiPath MVP for a couple of years. Work very closely with Diana and her team and the other MVP members. I also represent the Philadelphia chapter here, so I'll be working on the side here to help you guys. Any Q&A, any question comes in, so happy to connect with you offline also as needed. So thanks.
Great, thanks everybody. So again, we're in week 2. So we're finishing up this week. You guys want to make sure that you're looking at your self-paced training homework that is you can find on every course description. And then just keep working on that. If you have any questions or you're behind in your homework, just remember that the forum is a great way to catch up, ask questions, get yourself, up to speed. And so I will put the important links in the chat again. And right now I'm going to turn it over to our team as I start putting those links in the chat.
Sounds great. Thank you, Diana. Let me share my screen. Okay, hope you all can see my presentation. So the initial 45 minutes, I'll try to cover that selected topics, and remaining 45 minutes, I'll turn it over to Atul, and Atul will be covering the PDF part. Since we have a mix of audience today, I will start with the selected basics, and I will go through all those topics step by step. And if you have any questions, feel free to post it in the chat. The team will be answering those questions, and after the session, I will also answer your questions. Plus, after the session, you can reach out to me if you have any specific detailed questions around selectors and all those stuff. We do have courses for selectors in Academy, which you can complete. Plus, we do have a lot of documentation available in docs.uipath.com as well. So if you want to deep dive into selectors, understand each and every concept, then we have a lot of collaterals available, a lot of support available from a forum perspective. So today's, from a selectors perspective, I'm going to cover 5 main topics. First one is how UiPath finds UI elements on the screen. And then the next one is selector basic. What is a selector? How does that structure look like? What is an attribute? What is a tag? So we'll go through that selector basics. And then in case if there is any issue with selectors, how do we fix and validate the selectors? Because selector reliability is most important for UI automation. So if your selector is fine-tuned and fixed properly and validated properly, then your UI automations will run successfully in production, right? So we will understand how to fix and validate selectors. There is a tool called UI Explorer that comes with UiPath Studio. So we will talk about what is UI Explorer, how you can leverage that for your UI automation, understanding the properties of the elements, etc. And then last, we'll talk about handling dynamic screens, tables, and find children as well. A lot of time there might be the applications might be more responsive. There might be dynamic elements on the screen. Your drop downs might be changing. Your drop down values might be changing. Your tables might be changing. So when you indicate a particular selector, normally if that particular selector has changed, it would fail, right? So during that time, how do we handle that dynamic screens, tables, and like drop downs kind of thing? So we'll go through all these in detail. So I'll start with the basics. What is a selector? So as you know, UiPath, using UiPath, you can automate your day-to-day like business process and mundane task, right? So when you're automating, so you can automate different kind of applications. UI automation is one of the specific area where you can like UiPath can help, right? You can automate the GUI of the application. You can automate the UI. It could be like a Windows application. It could be like a web application, similar to how a human performs actions on the screen. Automation can perform the same actions as well, as long as you put those steps within the automation. So when these automations interact with those applications, either web applications or Windows applications, it needs something to understand what is that element, and talk to that element, right? Communicate with that particular element. That's where selector comes into picture. So when a human sees a particular UI, there are two ways you can identify elements on the screen. One is visual. How does that element look like? Where does it positioned? What is the coordinate of the element? What does the color look like? What does the length look like? So based on that, you will visualize, you'll understand what is that element is. The other type is based upon the properties of the element. So each element will have like a label or text, or position, those kind of things. So there will be underlying properties for those elements. So you can use same way UiPath automation can leverage those visual details or the properties of the element to interact with a particular element, right? So let's take this application for example. So this is like a web application where you have a
Logesh,
login page. So, yeah.
sorry to interrupt. Are you sharing the screen?
I thought I was sharing my screen. One second, let me.
No,
It might got disconnected. Are you able to see my screen now?
it's coming up. Yes.
Okay, sorry for the trouble. I think I might have hit stop sharing accidentally. But yeah, what I was explaining is I was just explaining how the UiPath automation works with the applications, right? Windows application or web application. So it uses a selectors. It uses a selectors to interact with a particular application. Uh, you can use visual identifiers to be able to identify that element, or you can use underlying properties as well. So the visual elements, you can call it as image based automation or computer vision based automation. But if you use underlying properties, then that's what we call it as selectors. So UiPath has like a inbuilt mechanism, like a inbuilt framework to be able to capture the properties and save it for its use, right? So every element will have its property. So you can capture the UiPath can capture the property, it can save it, so that when you're running the automation, it will use a property to interact with those elements. So let me show you quickly. So if you go to the application here, this is a web application and this is a login page. Here you can see email and password, two fields here, right? So if I need to automate these two fields, for example, I want to type a username, password, and click on login, then I need to write the steps in my automation. When writing the steps in my automation, I need to tell you need to type the email address in this particular box, and you need to type the password in this particular box and click on the login button, right? So for that, I can use two kind of mechanism. One is I can just capture the space and say there is an image here. You can use this image, and there you can put the username, and there is a image here where you can put the password, and I can capture this image as well. And you can also you can also indicate the coordinates as well. This is where my element present. But image based or coordinate based things may be unreliable, because if you minimize the application screen, or sometimes it might be rendering differently in each machine. So image based automation or uh, coordinates based automation might be unreliable for UiPath UI automation. That's when selectors will come into picture. Selectors means, if you click on this particular element and go to inspect, you will see a properties for each of this element. For example, this element has a set of properties here. It has like an ID, name, type, and all those stuff. Similar to that, this password field, it has like a specific number of specific properties: ID, name, password, and all those stuff. And then if you click on login, login has like a specific type, name, and all those stuff, right? So for each element will have like an underlying properties. When the application is developed, it could be a web application or Windows application. When the application is developed, the developers might write some properties for each of those elements, right? Those properties are captured in Excel format, and that is what in UiPath they call it as selectors, right? So it will capture the property, and it will save that property, and that property will be used when the automation is running against that particular elements. Now, the best part about the selectors is these type of property typically don't change. Even if the UI position changes, the coordinate changes, sometimes if the image based automation, if the things are pixelated, if the session screen position is changed, or Windows scaling is changed, image based automation might fail. But these properties won't change. It would be stable. So that's the reason UiPath recommends selectors as a first option, the recommended option for UI automation. In case if properties are not reliable, if properties are not available in certain situations, you might be automating Citrix or remote applications, then you can rely on image based automation or coordinates based automation. But the first recommended path is selected based automation. So what the key takeaway from this slide is, selectors tell UiPath what to interact with, not where it appears on the screen. So what you are interacting with based on the properties, it doesn't tell you where it appears on the screen. So where it appears on the screen doesn't matter. What it is interacting with, what is the underlying property of the element that it interacts with. So the selectors matters because screen layout can change, Windows position can vary, and dynamic applications need a reliable way to find elements. So selector is a recommended path. In case if properties are not available, then you can leverage computer vision, image based targeting. Those are like alternate methods for UI automation. So let's move to the next slide. So the next slide is selected basic. So if you look at the selector, this is one of the selectors. So if you look at this, it is like in an XML structure format. So each level represents a parent-child relationship. So there is a parent. Under that parent, there is a child. Under that child, there is another child, right? So the bottommost node will be your actual element which you are interacting with. So it will be like, for example, there is a window. Under that window, there might be a container. Under that container, there might be several elements, right? So if you indicate a particular element, your entire hierarchy of that properties will be stored in the XML. For example, it will tell this is a window. Under this window, this is a container. And under this container, this is the element, right? And this is the element that you're working with. And this is the element that you're trying to automate. So it will capture the entire hierarchy so that when you're automating, it will preserve that hierarchy and it will leverage that hierarchy. So there might be, for example, if you take text box, there might be multiple text boxes on a particular window, right? So if you take these UI applications here, there are several text box here, input types here. So this one, this one, this one. Similarly, if you take a web application, there might be several text box here. And if you take if you take a home screen, there might be so many other text box as well. So in order for UiPath to identify which text box it has to interact with, you need the parent-child relationship, the entire hierarchy of the application. That's where this UiPath selector will come into picture. When you indicate an element, it will capture the entire parent-child relationship as a selector. Thereby, it will be able to uniquely identify the particular element. So typically within the selector, you will see different properties like attributes like name, text, automation ID, hierarchy, and things like that, right? So for example, if you see this particular selector, you see a name, This is for a web application. For Windows application, you'll see something called name, and then you'll see something called type. And then in some cases, if the developers has created automation IDs for those properties, you can use that automation ID as well. Those kind of properties are typically reliable. So anything that you see, when you visually see that attribute, you will know whether it's going to change or not. It is prone to change or not. It's better to select stable attributes rather than selecting unstable attributes. For example, in some cases there might be some attribute called session ID, right, or unique ID, something like that. So that might be in alphanumeric format, that might be in a GUID format. If you choose those kind of attributes, when you're loading the application in your machine, it might be showing one ID, and when you're loading the application on a different machine, it might be showing a different ID. So when you run the same automation on machine A and machine B, it might run on machine A because you selected that property, that unique session ID property. But if you run that same automation on a different machine, it will fail because that session ID might differ. So based on your understanding, so you need to understand the attributes and decide which attributes that you want to use. When you're choosing the attribute, go with the stable attribute. So typically things like automation ID, name, text, these kind of things won't change, right? Text will be a property of an element, and text will have something that will always displayed on the UI. Typically whatever is showing the UI, it won't change. So things like text or automation ID or name, type, those kind of things typically don't change. So choose those kind of attributes in your selectors. So it will capture everything, right? When you're indicating an element, if you capture everything, but you as an automation developer has to review that selectors and make sure you're choosing only a stable and unique attributes. And it has to be a unique attribute as well. You should not choose common attribute. For example, if you choose let's say you have two elements, you're choosing the same attribute for the two elements, and UiPath will struggle to understand which element it needs to interact with. For each element, there will be a unique attribute, so you need to choose that unique attribute. So good versus bad attribute, prefer stable unique attribute, that is good attributes. Avoid dynamic and volatile attribute, anything that is changing. Typically things like index, ID, titles, those kind of things will change. One quick example is, if you look at this particular application, let me try to capture the selector for this application, right? I'll explain how to capture the selector and all the stuff, but let me show you. This is a selector for this entire window, right? This is a Windows application, and I've captured the selector for the entire Windows application. If you see here, this part, you'll easily know that this is prone to change, right? This is a date and time. So whenever there is an update to date and time, this will change. Now, when you're launching this, it will show this time. Tomorrow, if you launch this, it will show a different date and time. So if you rely on this particular property, then when you run the same automation tomorrow, it will fail because the date might have changed, right? If I click on validate here, it's validating now. Let's try to change this to something else and click on validate, right? So that will fail because uh, this application has 211, whereas your property has 215, right? So it will definitely fail. The property is not matching. So things of that nature, you have to escape those kind of attributes which are changing. Either remove that attribute completely and add the attribute which are stable, or else if you're planning to have that attribute, add escaping characters to escape those kind of changing values, right? So we'll talk about the wildcards in detail. There are two types of wildcards which are typically used in selectors. One is asterisk symbol, another one is question mark. So asterisk symbol means anything that is after this particular text, you ignore that, right? If there is like a zero character present or more than zero character present, then accept that. Accept that you're not going to consider that for the selector validation, right? But a question mark means like one character. So anything after this UI, there will be one character that will be present. That could be any character, right? And if you put a star question mark, that it means that uh, at least one value, but more than zero, right? More than zero, zero or more character, more than one or characters, right? So you can use a combination of a star and question mark, or just a star or question mark. But you can choose one of these strategies to escape that values which will be typically changing, right? So if I put a star button, star symbol here, and if I click on validate, so once again, let me indicate it again. And then, so this is validating correctly. But if I put a star here, then it's validating correctly, which means that anything after this, just ignore that, right? Don't consider that remaining part, which normally would change. So this is like a stable selector that you can use. And if you see at the bottom, this validate button, you can use it to validate. Whenever you are fine tuning the selector, you can use the validate button to validate whatever selector that you have fine tuned is validated successfully, right? If it is in green color, then it means that it is validated successfully. If it is in red color, so typically if you put some wrong characters here and click on validate, then that will fail, right? So if it is red color, if it's not validated correctly, so you need to make it green and then save that particular selector in your automation. And there are several options available here for you to explore the selector and fine tune it. But the ultimate goal is understand the how the property works, how the element works for your individual application. There could be variety of applications you might be automating. So understand how your attributes and properties works. Choose a stable and unique attribute. Avoid dynamic and volatile attribute. Fewer attributes and stable attributes are better than choosing everything and then choosing like volatile attributes as well. So select few attributes, for example, a state, a name, or title, those kind of things. Remove unnecessary attributes, keep it simple, and also validate it, test it to make sure that works. And then after that, you can refine it accordingly. So if that's not working in production, then you can compare your selectors in production versus non-production and optimize your selectors accordingly. But start simple, start with stable, and then fixed static attributes rather than dynamic attributes. So selector describes what the element is and where it lives in the UI hierarchy. This is the entire hierarchy, not its screen coordinates. So it is not using the screen coordinates like position, like X, Y, or whatever it is. Instead, it is relying on the properties of the particular element plus the hierarchy. So in this window, this is a container, and within the container, this is a target element. So it is using that entire like hierarchy to interact with the element. There was a concept called full selector, partial selector before, but with the modern application, modern UI automation, you don't have to worry about full selector, partial selector, etc. As long as you use a use application browser and a modern UI automation activity, it will automatically capture whatever its selector it is needed, right? So the topmost parent element will have the window selector, the activity will have the element selector. So it will complete the full circle. So it will have the entire hierarchy, the parent plus the child selector, the element selector, to interact with a particular element. And fixing and validating selector. So that's what I said, right? So if you go in here, if it is an incorrect selector, or if you have chosen a selector which is not unique, which the application is not able to understand, you will get an error here. So make sure to fix that particular selector, make it work, make it green, validate it, test it, and then use it in your automation. And as I said, wildcard method is one method, right? You can use wildcard to remove that. Either you remove that entire attribute. If things are changing, you just remove that entire attribute. Or else, if you are planning to use that attribute, if you think that is the only attribute that will help you to identify the element, use that attribute, but make sure the dynamic parts are handled with asterisk or wildcards, things like that, right? Another way is you can create a variable for, in certain cases, that particular name might be changing, right? Today, it might be showing something called name, right? Tomorrow, it might be showing something called username. And if you load it in a different place, it might be showing something called email address, right? So if that particular value is going to change, and if you know what is going to change, then you can create a variable and pass that variable here as well. So let me show you an example, how I'm using variable here. So if you look at here, this is the application that I'm trying to automate, right? And then in the top, there are a couple of sections here: home, switch to new theme, login, and all the stuff, right? And what I can do is I can pass a variable name. So what I'm passing is I'm passing the AA name. AA name is one of the attribute, as you know, right? So if you click on UI Explorer and try to indicate that element here, one second, I think it's still opening. So while it's opening, so if you open a UI Explorer and try to indicate that particular element, it will show you the one of the attribute as a AA name, right? So for example, let me indicate this particular home, right? And if you indicate this, it will show that AA name is one of the attribute or property of that particular element. Now, if you see, this is the AA name, right? And let's assume that I'm choosing to use this particular AA name. I'm going to remove the parent ID if it is not unique and all the stuff. So I'm going to use this particular AA name. When I click on validate and highlight, it is showing that home, right? But if I go here and change this to something else, right? Let me change this to switch to new themes. And so if I go into the application here, so this is a new theme, right? So I'm going to make it exactly like switch to new theme. And if you click on validate, it's taking time to recognize, but if you change this particular AA name, it will fall back to this particular element, right? Instead of indicating this element, it will indicate this element, because you are changing the AA name, the underlying property of that particular element. Thereby it is understanding that, okay, now you should not click on home, you should click on switch to new theme. Now it is highlighting the switch to new theme. So I'm using the highlight option here. So this highlight option is highlighting the relevant element. So if I change it to home here, it will indicate the home element. But if I change it to switch to new theme, it will indicate the new theme. Now you will know how to use this in automation, right? In your automation, if you have an application where these kind of values are changing, today there is a value, tomorrow there is a value. If you load in one machine, there is a value. If you load it in another machine, there might be another value. If you're adding a record, there might be a dynamic value. So you need to identify the element based on the dynamic value. Then you can use a variable here. So let me show you how I created variable here. So I went into the click activity. This is a click activity, which is like a UI automation activity. If I go into the section here, okay. So if you see here, I have used like a variable name here, AA name here. So whatever I'm passing here, that value will be passed to this attribute. So instead of storing that, if you indicate this element directly, let me indicate the target directly. So that will capture that element. I don't know if, since I'm presenting my screen, it is slow, but it is slightly slow. Let me. Okay. So if I click on confirm, so if you see here, that particular attribute is not added, but you can add that attribute. So what you can do is you can just click on edit target. And then you can indicate this UI Explorer here. And then you can add the additional AA name. AA name is an additional property, right? So you can add that AA name here. And then click on save, right? So once you click on save, that AA name will appear on the property. Then you can add variable to that particular AA name. Right click, create a new variable, right? So you can create a new variable here called AA name. And then make the default value as home. But if you want to put a different value, you can pass it as well. But essentially, you are variabilizing this particular value, right? If you click on confirm, the variable will be added here. So click on yes, and then click on validate and confirm. So that will, I think it's showing multiple things. So you can add like a fuzzy selector here. But once you click on confirm, that variable will be added. Now, when you run this automation, every time whatever value that I'm passing here, that value will be sent to the next click activity as a variable, and then it will interact with the element. If I put home here, it will click the home option. But if I click on switch to new theme or old theme, it will click on that relevant activity. So you can also add variable to the selectors. It doesn't have to be like a static. You can also add variables to the selectors when there are situations like where things will be changing frequently. So those are a couple of methods which you use to fix and validate selectors. So common reasons selectors fail are dynamic window title. As I was showing in one of the window title, it was showing date and time, right? Those kind of things will change. Typically attributes like IDX will change. IDX is like a numeric character which will change. Session specific ID, application loading or timing issues. These are the main issues where selectors fail. So you need to make sure you capture the correct selector, you validate the selector to make sure it is syntactically correct, the element exists and is visible, and it is able to uniquely identify one element in the screen. It should not identify multiple elements, it should uniquely identify multiple element. When you're validating, there is a score that will be displayed, right? So in your selection option screen, there will be a score that will be displayed. If the score is 100%, then it means that it is able to identify the element uniquely. But if the score is less than 100%, then it means that you need to work on the selector, add additional anchors or attributes to strengthen that particular selector to make it at 100%. As I was showing earlier, if it is green, valid, red, invalid, orange means modified or revalidated, right? So it is modified, but you have not revalidated yet. Wildcards is one of the method to handle the selectors. Variable is another method. And editing attributes. For example, you should remove the volatile attribute. That is one method, and repair the selectors as well. If a selector fails, then you can repair the selector. Those options are available. But from a best practice perspective, as I mentioned earlier, select fewer stable attribute. Avoid relying on IDX kind of like changing attributes. Always revalidate after editing, and test selectors with highlight before execution. So you use the highlight option to highlight that it is able to identify their element. A selector is reliable only if it is valid, unique, stable across executions. So, I mean, you can do your best to make that selector reliable. Now there are more sophisticated mechanisms available within UiPath. We have healing agent, we have screenplay. Where selectors are not useful, you can use screenplay. For your production automations, you can enable healing agent. So even if the automation fails, it will be able to recover, and then it will also capture what went wrong, right? So this was a selector before, this was a new selector, please update your automation. So those kind of sophisticated mechanisms are available. And even within the targeting method, there are fallback mechanism. So for example, we have we saw different kind of things like strict selector, fuzzy selector, image based. So the different kind of targeting method. If one of the method fails, UiPath automatically fall back to the alternate method. So if your application is stable and if strict selector works 100% in all environments, go with strict selector. That will be more performant, right? It will perform well. Strict selector will perform well because of course it's not falling back to an alternate mechanism. But if your application is not stable, if it keeps on changing and you're not sure if strict selector would work always in your case, make sure to add additional fallback methods like fuzzy, image, and then text based. You can add additional targeting method to strengthen your selector, whole selector. Thereby, if one of the method fails, UiPath will automatically recover to the other thing. So there was a time where you need to work on selectors more you have to pay attention to selectors and make it more refined. But currently, you have more sophisticated mechanisms available within UiPath. As long as you make sure that you choose all the fallback mechanism when you're indicating the element, you're optimizing it to some level, go with simple unchanging attributes, that is sufficient. UiPath will handle the rest. And you can leverage a screenplay and healing agent kind of options if selectors are not reliable. And there are two main tools for working with selectors, right? One is when you're using the UI automation, you're indicating the target. And when you indicate the target, there is a UI screen that is displayed, which is called as selection option screen. The selection option screen comes with a lot of features, right? And I don't want to go into the details of each and every feature, but details about all these features are available in our documentation and academy courses as well. But my recommendation would be try to leverage all these different features and try to understand, use this to understand how your application behaves, what will be like a strong selector, what will be like a less strong selector, and then use this tool completely to handle your application behavior. Sometimes it might be very dynamic, sometimes it might be static, sometimes application properties might be changing. So in that case, you might be using fuzzy. And there are options like if you want to show all the matches related to that particular selector, you can use the show matches option. You can open UI Explorer directly from here. If you're using a fuzzy selector, fuzzy means it's like an algorithm, right? Where you choose a selector, and if the selector is somewhat matching, then it will interact with the element. But if the selector is not fully matching, then it will fail. And you can increase the accuracy as well. So how much fuzzy you want to apply, you can apply. If I apply a full fuzzy, then it will strongly look for that particular property. If the property is not present, then it will fail. But if I put a less fuzzy here, like less accuracy here, even if there is some kind of change in the attribute, instead of home, if it is home 123, still it will be able to identify the element, right? So you can choose this fuzzy selector where application properties are frequently changing. You can use a computer vision method, which is one of the method. There is a pause button if you want to pause for some time and open your element and then indicate it. So there are a lot of options available here which you can leverage for your UI automation. Plus, the next tool is a UI Explorer tool, right? So this table, I will share this table after this, we'll share this presentation after this meeting. But this table contains what are the different kind of options that are available within the panel. When do you use it, right? If you want to delay an element capture, then you can use the pause button. Window selector is what defines the application browser root element. Strict selector is exact match selector. Fuzzy selector is pattern-based matching. Computer vision, you can use AI based visual targeting. So this explains what are the different kind of options that are available and how you can leverage that as well. So you can use this particular table. You can do hands-on those different kind of options to see how that behaves as well. The other tool is a UI Explorer tool, right? So this UI Explorer tool is a standalone tool, standalone from UiPath Studio. You can open this UI Explorer tool within Studio. You can open this UI Explorer tool within the selection option screen. When you edit target, it will open the selection option screen. From there, you can open. You can also open the UI Explorer from the UiPath Studio folder as well, wherever it is installed. UiPath component, it will be installed in program files or whatever it is, right? From there, you can also open this application. So it is like since it is a standalone application, it is mainly used for you to understand the nature of the element, understand what are the properties that it comes with, understand the hierarchy of the element. Again, this comes with a lot of different options. On the top, you see several options here. Here you see a visual tree. There is a property explorer here. When you indicate a particular element, on the right hand side, it will show the list of properties that are available for you to choose for your selector. At the bottom left, it will show you the property explorer, which will show you additional properties that you can see, right? So some of these properties you can select it, but some of the properties you can't use it in your selector, but you can use it to understand what are the other kind of properties that are available for that element. And then you can use activities like get attribute. There is an activity called get attribute, which you can use to get the attribute of the element, and based on the attribute, then you can do the next steps kind of thing. So there are a lot of different options within available within UI Explorer. I have a table here that explains what each of the feature is and how each of them works. Just real quickly, on the top, you see a couple of these three options. It's mainly to indicate the element, validate the element, indicate an anchor. Anchor is nothing but a relative position. For example, if we have an element on the screen and that element is similar to other elements, you can indicate an element next to that element so that it can relatively say that, okay, you need to enter the value into this text box, but this text box is present next to the email label, right? Whatever it is. So if you want to add an anchor, you can add an anchor. You can add like totally like 3 anchors to your selector to make it strengthen that particular selector. You can use a highlight option. If something is wrong, you can use a repair option. There are different kind of frameworks that are available. UiPath use a default framework. It always works best. But in case if you are using like a legacy Windows application where default mode doesn't work, then you can use active accessibility. If you are using like a modern web apps where default mode is not working, then you can use UI automation. These are underlying different kind of framework that UiPath uses to understand that properties and capture that as a selector for UI automation. And there is an inspect element which is used for understanding how the events triggers works, so that you can use it for attended trigger automation. There is a visual tree which will show you the entire hierarchy of that application and property. You can use it to set the target element, anchor element, and all those stuff. So you can do hands-on on this UI Explorer. There are a couple of tables which explains what is the purpose of each of them. And then the last bit that I wanted to talk about is a get attribute and find children activity, right? So get attribute is nothing but an activity within the UiPath Studio, which you can use in conjunction with your UI automation. So typically, get attribute, what it will do is it will be able to get an attribute, a property of a particular element. So as you see here, there are several properties, several attributes that are available for a particular element, right? This is like an email field. For this email field, there are several attributes available. So when you use the get attribute activity, you can get this value of these attributes. Thereby, you can decide what should be the next step, right? For example, let's say there is a login button. If the login button is disabled, don't interact with the element. Go to the next step. If a login button is enabled, then click that element. So if you want to make the decision, first you need to get the attribute of that particular element. That's where this get attribute activity will be useful. So if I run this particular flow, it will first check whether the login element is there. What is the enabled status of that particular element? Is that enabled or disabled, right? So it is getting that particular attribute. If it is enabled, then click on that particular element. If it is not enabled, then do nothing. Log information saying that this particular button is not enabled. You can also, in certain cases, you might want to refresh the application as well, right? So get attribute is one of the activity that you can use in conjunction with your selectors, functions, plus UI automation. And the another one is find children. Find children is another crucial activity which you can use as part of your UI automation. So find children, there are different kind of modes available. Find children, find descendants, find top levels, depending on the hierarchy of that element, right? So some hierarchy might have parent, right, child 1, child 2, child 3. Some might have nested, right? Child 1, under that child 1 there might be another child, there might be another child to that. So depending on what you want to capture from that, let's assume that there's a drop down list, right? That drop down list is changing. Today it is showing 2025, 2026. Next year it might be showing 2027. You always want to select the latest value from the drop down. Then you can't always like assume that there will be 2027 there, 2028 there, right? So first you need to capture what is there in that particular drop down through the find elements. And once you capture, then you can do a comparison saying that if one of these element is equal to current year, one of the element has a property which is equal to current year, then choose that particular element, right? So that's what I'm doing here. There is a drop down here which contains a year. So I'm getting the descendants of all that elements, and I'm applying a filter here. I'm applying a filter to say I want only the elements with this particular filter, with this inner text and with this class text. That will give me 2026, 2025, 2024, 2025, all these elements. It will give me all the elements as a output, and using that elements I can loop into the different elements. And if my element attribute has 2025, then click on that particular element. So if I run this automation, it will choose a 2025 from that particular element. Tomorrow if I am validating current year, it will check whether if it is equal to current year, and it will choose that particular element. So depending on your dynamic nature of the application, you can use the find element activity as well. So I think it's 10:45. So before handing over to Atul, just to quickly summarize what we covered today, selectors are the most reliable way to do UI automation. You can use different tools within UiPath. For example, the selection option screen, the UI Explorer to indicate the selector, to understand the selector and use it in your UI automations. It comes with various tools. Currently, with all this sophisticated mechanism we have within UiPath, you don't have to put a lot of efforts into selectors. Just make sure that you're selecting the correct targeting method, selecting the correct fallback method, depending on your application behavior, and UiPath will take care of the next. Leverage the healing agent and screenplay kind of options as well. In future community sessions, we can talk more about healing agent and how screenplay works. But you can combine all these different technologies to make your automations more reliable and successful in production as well. So with that, I will hand it over to Atul. So if you have any questions related to UI automation, feel free to post it in the chat. I'd be happy to answer. Atul, over to you.
Thank you, Logesh, for the excellent session on selectors. Truly one of the most critical foundation of stable automation.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Let me start sharing my machine. 1 second here. Can someone confirm they are able to see?
Yes, I can see.
Okay, and you can see the studio, right?
Yes.
Okay, and now you should be able to see the presentation.
Yes.
Perfect. Again, welcome everyone. Thank you for being part of the UiPath community and joining us today. We have seen how Selector help us navigate application. Now let's shift gears and tackle something that does not always cooperate, PDF. They look simple, but where they fail, that's what we are going to cover. This section that I'm going to cover is focused on PDF automation, not just how to automate PDFs, but how to do it correctly in a way that actually works in production. So that's what our main goal is. PDFs are part of everyone daily work, right? Invoices, contracts, statements, forms. We deal with them constantly, often without even thinking about it. And that's exactly where the challenge begins. PDFs are everywhere, but they behave very differently depending upon how they have created. Most issue based upon my experience I've seen is not with the automation. They start with misunderstanding the PDF itself. And that's exactly what we are going to unpack today. But before we dive too much into technical details, let me start with a very simple story. So at 2 a.m., let's say an invoice arrives as a PDF. At 9 a.m., someone opens it manually, scroll through it, copy values, paste them into another system. That's what the typical enterprise workflow looks like. It happens every single day across team, across department. Manually handling the PDF creates delays, introduce errors, consumes valuable time, right? In today's environment, that's simply not sustainable. Now, compare that with a bot. A bot reads that same PDF in milliseconds without scrolling, without copying, without any fatigue, right? So automation is no longer a convenience, it's a necessity. But here is the important part. The real question is not whether we can automate PDF. The real question here is whether we can automate them accurately and reliably in a way that works consistently in production, because speed without accuracy is just a faster mistake, right? So to understand how we achieve that in UiPath, let's look into the roadmap today. So what we are going to cover, we'll start by understanding why automation, PDF automation matters. Then we will look at different type of PDFs, how they impact automation. We'll walk through the UiPath PDF activities. We will cover few scenarios and with the best practices. And finally, we will discuss PDF activities enough. Then when we will little bit touch on the document understanding to make it more sense. So let's start with the introduction or the overview, right? In today's digital first world, business handle a massive influx of data daily, right? We all deal with data. Most enterprise data does not live in database. It lives in document. And if you will see, 80% of the enterprise data lives in what you call in documents. PDF dominates business process across finance, HR, compliance, and operations. However, manual document handling introduced delays, error, which we have covered. That's where UiPath steps in. PDF automation is again not about saving few minutes, but it's about eliminating entire category of repetitive work. So we are going to explore what UiPath Studio have to offer to us in automating these PDFs. We will cover not only text extraction, We'll also cover OCR powered recognition from a scanned documents. And by the end of the session, I think you will be equipped with the knowledge to automate PDF data extraction like a pro. So UiPath PDF automation, focusing on extracting information directly from the PDF documents. It allows us to read text from both native PDF and scanned PDF, and we'll cover in a bit what those two PDFs are. When the PDF is native, UiPath can read the text directly. When the PDF is scanned or image-based, that's where the UiPath OCR comes into picture, that converts that image into a readable text. PDF automations work well with the structured and semi-structured documents where the layout is predictable. The predictability is the most important. If you can simply, those are reliable and you know the patterns, so that's where the PDF automations will work. In addition to text extraction, UiPath allows UI automation on PDF viewer when needed, such as interacting with buttons, forms. That makes a complete automation package, right? So it is best, the PDF automation is best suited for simple text extraction, consistent document layout, and scenario where OCR is only used when absolutely necessary. As long as the document is structured, remains stable, PDF automation delivers fast, accurate, and easy to maintain automation. And that's where at the end, or maybe we'll cover a little bit of let's cover that bit in of document understanding, because that's a big confusion. We know PDF automation, what it covers. PDF automations here, like I talked about, works best when the documents behave predictable and is structured. But in the real world, not all the documents behave that nicely, right? When you get the complex invoices, at that some point also layout changes, vendors different, rules starts breaking. That's where the question shifts from how do I automate the PDF to how do I handle documents which are changing at scale. And that's where the document understanding will come into picture. We are not going to cover document understanding today. Our focus will be more towards PDF automations. But at a high, this is what the difference look like. PDF automation is rule-based, more deterministic. If your documents are consistent, this approach is fast, reliable, and easy to maintain. Where document understanding is designed for complexity. It uses AI, and optional human validation to handle variability at scale. So from my experience, best approach is start simple. If your documents or PDFs are simple, start with PDF automations. And if it started becoming complex, a lot of variability, that's where the document understanding will come into picture. So there are two types of PDF. That's where it is very important to handle, because I will demonstrate one example where if you will try to automate a wrong type of PDF in a wrong way, it will result in error. So before we start looking into the demo, it's very important to understand there are two types of PDFs. One is called the native PDF. They are born digital, means the text is selectable and searchable. And the second is scanned PDFs. They have images. They don't contain real text. That's where the OCR comes into picture. Choosing a wrong approach here is the most common reason PDF automation fails. So very important to understand that we understand these two types of PDF, native PDF and scanned PDF. Coming to the next. Before you start any kind of automation, there is a recommended settings that you must do. And these are the steps. Once you get this presentation, you will get to know the exact step, but we need to basically change some Adobe Reader settings if you are dealing with that. And you will have all the steps. These are essential, because if you will not do it properly, then PDF automations will not be able to work. Now, with the basic understanding of PDF, what we have covered, why it matters, why we need to do automations, because as we remember, like we mentioned that 80% of the data, enterprise data, still resides on documents, not on the database. So we have seen that if you will try to do it manually, a lot of error, it takes time to consume those, right, valuable effort. That's where automation is required. But with the automation, we don't want to simply get too fast, right? We want to do it in a right way. That's where we need to understand different kind of PDFs. And now once we understand different kind of PDFs, now let's how UiPath can help, right? So in UiPath, activities are the foundational, right? You have maybe have covered during the session 1 and 2. They are the foundation, right? They are the building blocks that helps in designing the right kind of automation, right? So UiPath offer two types of activities. One is called read PDF text. This is again ideal for native PDF. It's fast, is highly accurate. But if you are dealing with the scanned PDF, right, which we have covered earlier. So if you are dealing with scanned PDF which has images, that's where the read PDF with OCR comes into picture. This is used for scan where like I mean there are multiple OCR engine. OCR is powerful, but it introduced complexity. So that's where I mentioned wherever possible, start with the PDF text first. If it has images, that's where you go with the OCR. And if documents are not predictable, that's where the document understandings comes into picture. So OCR engine is again optical character recognition engine in UiPath are used to extract text from images, scan document, other graphical content. UiPath provide multiple OCR engines to handle different types of text. Based upon my again practice, some OCR works better in some cases. So you may need to try different OCR engine to see which gives the best experience. But for example, there are few free OCR engines in UiPath, like the UiPath Free OCR. It gives the modern experience. Then there's the Tesseract OCR, there's the Microsoft OCR, and then there are few paid OCR engines, which is like the UiPath Document OCR, which comes as part of the document processing. Then there's the UiPath, the Google Cloud, the Microsoft Reader, and the Abbey Cloud. Multiple OCR options are available, but you need to decide based upon your scope and your requirement which OCR engine fits best for you. Now, we learned about PDFs, we learned about the two activities, but how to get this done, right? The very basic first part is when you have your UiPath Studio installed, the PDF activity does not comes by default. You need to install them. So how to install them? Simply go into the manage packages and let's see if we can. So basically, if you will go and I'll go practically just, but this is the image from your studio. If you click on to the manage package activity, that's where it will give you, you will simply start writing PDF. It will give you the options of different PDF activities that are available. You need to select the UiPath activity, PDF activity. I think the current version is 3.22 to 5.2. That's the recent version. So once you install that, you will see in your under your installed activity under the app integration, you will find read PDF text and read PDF with OCR. So that's where once you install your package, those two activities will become available. And in the following section, we will demonstrate how to use that. So that's where we have covered basic automation. We have covered types of PDFs, the PDF settings, and we have covered the two different activities that are available as part of the UiPath PDF activity package. Now let's see how is in action. By this time, I assume we have covered how to install them. Now we are going to cover few use cases, right? Like these are the use cases which cover most of the PDF automation. The first use case we will go through is simply extracting the data using the read PDF text activity. Very simple, which I will demonstrate how to read from a native PDF. Then we will jump into how to read again the same activity using the regular expression. Let's say once you have all the data that you have extracted from a PDF, you want to extract certain fields, and we will use using the regular expression. Once that pass, we will go into the scanned PDF. We will use the read PDF with OCR activity. That is the third demo that or the third exercise we will do. And then we will go a little bit more complex from the multiple PDFs, scanning a single piece of information, extracting data from multiple PDF and one invoice example. So now with that, let's jump into the action. So here is the demo number 1. So this demo is all about reading a PDF using the read PDF activity. Okay, so let's look into this PDF first. So we are reading the sample order replacement native PDF. So let's see here what it looks like. So this is the PDF that we are going to extract. If you will see, everything is selectable, means this is how you tell whether this is a scanned PDF, a native PDF, or a OCR based or a image based PDF. Here I'm able to select all the text, right? This is a native PDF. Very simple. All I'm going to do is run this activity, and if you will see, that's where I am using the a little bit here. So if you see, this is what I'm using as the read PDF text activity. So let's see in action. All these processes going to that PDF, which I've just shown. Using the read PDF text activity, it will read all the content from the PDF and simply output into a simple text file. Okay, so let's run this one. And here is the message that I'm showing. So if you will see, the PDF that we extracted was this one. Right? And if you see, this is the data that we have extracted. All the information starting from this till the last, I'm able to extract all this information. Okay. So very simple one. All we did is simply read the content using the read PDF activity. So this is the very simple, very first demonstration on how to use the read PDF text activity. Going to the second one. Now, in this activity, we are going a little bit complex. What we are doing to this same activity, we are reading the text using the same read PDF text activity. But here, what we are going to use is, if you have seen here, let me go back here. So here I'm again using the same order replacement native PDF. What I'm going to use here is there are certain information that is presented here, like old tracking number, new tracking number. So in demo number 1, we have scenario number 1, we have extracted whole text, right? But now when we have extracted the whole text from the PDF, we are going to extract certain specific fields. And for that, we are going to use the regular expression. That's what we are going to do here. So let's give it a run. Same way, this is the complete data that I've extracted. And coming back here now, if you will see here in the message box, now from the complete text, which is here, let me open this PDF one more time. So from the read text activity, once we have the complete text using the regular expression, I'm extracting specific fields. For example, order number, old tracking number, new tracking number, and the shipping address. And all is using the simple regular expression. I am assuming that you have already gone through that in the previous sections, but again, very simple to do that. If you will see here, we have this activity, UiPath activity matches here. All it do is simply you need to pass the right expression here to get that information. And if you will play around it, sometimes it differs from what you are expecting, but very simple to do. And this regular builder regex builder activity will help you in getting the right regular expression. That's what I'm doing. I have one for order number, one for tracking number, one for new tracking number, and one for the shipping address. Once the data is extracted, here if you will see, I have that in the the output is in a variable called the order replacement PDF output. And once I have that one, I'm basically using the regular expression to get that information, match against a pattern, and output into a variable. That's pretty much all we are doing. Once again, extract all the data from a PDF, store it into a variable. From that variable, I'm using regular expression to specific fields and storing into the required variables. That is this demo is doing. Coming to the third scenario, this is what I want to demonstrate, that what if you will not follow like what I have just mentioned, try to read data from a scanned PDF when you don't know like what exactly this PDF is all about, what will happen. So So let's take another example here. What I'm going to do here is, this time I'm pointing to a different PDF, native and scanned. So let's look into this one, native and scanned. So what this PDF is, this PDF consists of, again, some data here. If you will see, this is native, but also it has an image here, right? I'm not able to select specific order details or that number. How we can deal with this kind of situation, right? Because there is some native data and then there's some images. So how to deal with those situations? So this is where, firstly, I'm going to show how it fails if you will try to simply use a read PDF text activity in this scenario. So let's give it a run. So you will see here, it is only able to extract the information that is text up to only reported by James from here to here. It is this activity, if you will simply use the read PDF activity, it will not be able to extract any information from the image. That's where our OCR activity will now come into picture, which we are going to demonstrate in this case. So here, if you will see, in this one, I'm simply reading the PDF using the read PDF text activity, writing into a text file, that's it. But how to do it in a right way? That's where the OCR will comes into picture. And here, if you will see, I have used the read PDF with OCR. All you need to do is, once you select that read PDF with OCR, you need to select the right OCR engine. There are multiple options available. What I'm using is the direct OCR and nothing specific here, right? Simply. And you maybe, once you will go into a little bit more details, then you will go into more options, like what are the characters that are allowed, whether to like extract the right exact word. Those kind of options will be there, right? So what we are going to do here is, now let's run the same PDF. What I'm going to do, the same PDF, but with read PDF with the OCR. So let's see how it works. It may take some time here because the OCR engine goes through it. So hopefully it should be not that long, but okay. So here are the results. And let's go back. So you will see here, with the get text activity, we were only able to extract up to this point, right? Reported by James Doe. But with the OCR now, we are able to not only extract the text, but we are also able to extract information from the image. So if you will see, all the information from order details, enter, shipping address, all this information is now we are able to extract. That's the beauty of like using the OCR engine. But again, the output may vary depending upon which OCR engine you are using. From my experience, you may need to try a couple of them to accurately get it working, but that's what this OCR engine will do. Now let's take another example. This is again simply straightforward. We have covered simply using the read PDF text activity using a native PDF. We have covered how to extract specific field from the text using the regex. Then we have demonstrated what if you will use the wrong activity from extracting the information, and then how to do it correctly using the OCR engine. Now let's go a little bit more into the practical use case of invoices, right? That's what we mostly deal with. So in this use case, let's take a simple scenario that you have received an email containing a scanned PDF containing the latest invoices. So in this process, what we are going to do is, we are going to extract date and the total from the invoices and write them into an Excel field. Okay, so we are going to extract all the invoices from data invoices images. Okay, so these are all the invoices sitting here. Okay, and let's open one by one. So this is invoice number 1. And this is again in a image. And same way, invoice number 2. It's not a native PDF, it is an image-based PDF. Okay. So our goal is now to extract this information and store in an Excel sheet. And what we are going to do is, at the end, we are storing in an Excel sheet, which is sitting at invoice report and the output folder. Okay. So let's try it out. And you will see here in the output how the execution is going. It has extracted the date and the total field, and it is now going through the other, and the automation is completed. So let's see into our output. Like I mentioned, the output should be under data, output, invoices, data, output, invoice report. So this is what get executed and created. While Excel is opening, why it's taking so much time? Let's go to the invoices, images also. So here is the Excel. If you will see here, it is able to extract the invoice date and the invoice total. And if we go back to our two invoices, that's just to validate whether it has extracted the right information. So in our first invoice, the date was April 15, 2021, and the total was balance due was 799.80. So it has extracted that. And if we look into the other one, the date was April 15, 2021, and the invoice total was 119,970. So that's how we did this activity. Let's look into this one. All we are doing is simply starting with the same. We started with looping through, sending a PDF folder and going through that folder one by one on each file on that folder. Then we are using the same read PDF with OCR because this is a image-based PDF. Once we have extracted all the data, we are using our regex or a different basically more fine tuning. I think this is string manipulation, that what activity we are doing. So we are basically using those specific extract write, extract live totals to get those information. And that's where these fields are getting populated. Once all the fields are there, we are simply writing in a data table. And once the data table is ready, we are simply writing using our write range workbook activity, which will dump all the data table that we have created into this Excel sheet. Simple one. Coming to the next one, this is again a very simple case, extracting a single piece of data from multiple PDFs. In this example, we will use a UiPath automation capability of Studio for extracting fluctuating information, right? So what we are going to use is, and I think Logesh has just demonstrated is how to use selectors. That's exactly what we are using is, we are opening the PDF, and from the PDF, we are using the selector to point to the value or the field that we want to extract. And that's pretty much what we are doing. We have opened the PDF. From the PDF, we have selected or provided a selector in extracting that information, and we are putting into this one. So let's see in action. So the only thing is, when you use this one, it is going to open that PDF actually. That's what it's doing. And if you will see here, using the same PDF, it extracted the total from here. And pretty much that's it. It's now opening we are using the same PDF which I have demonstrated in the previous example. So what it has done is it has extracted that information and showing this message. The only difference here in this case is we are extracting using the PDF automation, basically where we are opening the Adobe, the Acrobat. And if you will see here on my other screen, actually the PDF is opening, and that's where it is able to extract using the get text activity rather than the PDF activities that we have given. So going into the similar use case, I can give you a demo, but in this one also, same example, we have multiple invoices. We are going through each file one by one and using the get text activity to extract those information from invoice number, invoice data, and invoice total. But here the main difference is we are using the get text activity, and like Logesh has given you example, we are simply using the selector from the PDF to extract those fields and using some kind of like assign variable to assign into variables, adding that into a data table, and once the data table is ready, we are simply putting into a worksheet. Let me quickly run this one also to show what exactly it is doing. So if you will keep monitoring the output window, what it is doing. So it is opening the first PDF. From there, it is extracting the three fields which I mentioned: invoice number, invoice date, and invoice total. So one PDF is done. Now look into the output window. Now it will open the second PDF, invoice 722018. It will extract the same information using the get text activity, which uses the selectors, anchor-based selector. It extracts the fields and it will loop through all the 4 invoices that I have into that folder. And once the extraction is done, it is adding that into a data table and adding that into Excel sheet. This is a typical use case that we deal with. Based upon my experience, that's what we do. We simply don't show a message box. Once you have all the information from multiple invoices, you want to use that information, right? So in a very typical use case, you extract that information. Either you use that information to put into some field. Oh, I actually clicked on a wrong button. That's why it failed. But these are the example which I'm going to. The only problem with this is when you play around in a environment where you are, because the PDF is opened here. What I did when I was talking, I accidentally clicked on multiple places. That's where this automation failed. But that's another like downside on assisted machines when you were also playing and doing other things. Opening a PDF and trying to extract anchor base sometimes gives those kind of results. But these are the pretty much kind of like errors that you will face and the use cases that you will follow on a simple PDF, predictable and PDF. That's pretty much you normally deal with in day to day. Once it cross that limit where you have to deal with scalable PDF where the data is changing, that's where the document understanding comes into picture. That concludes everything from my side in terms of PDF automation. Definitely in future sessions, somewhere we can plan the document understanding, which has more advanced version of extracting or dealing with PDF. But at a very simple state, most of the use cases that I have worked with are easily able to handle using the regex. So regex are very important. You extract the data. If you will work smartly, you will be able to use regular expression and get most use of it, unless until you are dealing with tables and complex invoices. That's where the document understanding comes into picture. But for normal PDF, this should be enough. These two activities should be able to cover most of the things. So that's from my side. I'm open to any questions and I'll stop sharing. Over to you, Diana.
Great, thank you. So Atul and Logesh, thank you so much. Great presentations today. Also, I don't know if everybody noticed, but there was a lot of action happening in the chat again. So make sure you copy it because there's a lot of great resources there that you guys can leverage for this sessions, for this series. And if you guys have any other questions, feel free to just take yourself off mute and go ahead and ask. This is your opportunity to interact with our MVPs.
If your PDF is not image-based, is there a different activity you need to use?
So like native PDF or like what?
Yes,
if,
native. I would say, yeah.
Yeah, if it is native, like for example, like the very first PDF which we took an example, if you are able to select text, it is a native PDF. So then simply use the get read PDF text. That should be enough.
Oh, okay. So that one is intended for native PDFs. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay. I saw that it was handling the one that had an image in it, but it just didn't extract from the image.
Let's go through that. Yeah. So again, if your PDF is only text-based, means a native PDF where it is no images, you should be.
Hmm.
Let me start sharing actually. Let's make sure we are. So
Talking on the same page. Yeah.
yeah. So we dealt with two types of PDF. This is one, the native one.
Which has tags behind it, right?
Right, this one which has all everything you will be able to select, right? All everything is text-based. This is the native PDF. And for this one, you should be able to use the read PDF text activity.
Okay.
The
Thank you.
other type of is the scanned one where we have both text, if you will see here, text, but then it has an image also.
Right,
That's where
right.
OCR
Okay.
needs to come into picture.
Thank you.
Mm, I have a question. How it UiPath handles like handwritten PDF documents?
It's a good question. By default, again, it's OCR. It's OCR, not UiPath as such, but it's the responsibility of a OCR engine to do that. Some OCR engines are smart enough to take care of the handwritten, but sometimes you need to buy the paid version of OCR to get those done, whether this document understanding comes into picture. So try it out on different OCR, see if you are able to get that. The free version of the OCRs, I don't have 100% success there. Initially, very initial day, we were looking into like Abby, which is another OCR which was very powerful. But now, like Google and Microsoft, they have done tremendous amount of work. So hopefully they should be able to do that information. But you need to try different OCR to see which one best suited for your handwritten documents. But it's again not the UiPath, is the OCR that you choose that decide how to deal with those OCR, because again it's ultimately the OCR, the character recognition that will work here.
So we have to buy extra through UiPath. How will buy that one?
So depending upon, right, you can let's go here. For example, I have shown, you're still able to see my screen, right? So let me see if we have that one. Yep. So I believe the free one is, let's see here. So if you are going to use Microsoft or like the UiPath one, you need to definitely, here example, let me open a simple one here and let's start the. But yes, you're right. If you are dealing with a paid version of tools, for example, whether you are using with the Google Cloud, Microsoft Reader, you need to, or Abby OCR, based upon the OCR you are using, you need to buy those one. But there are many of the free version also available. Like the one that I was using was the Tesseract. It does not require any like paid version. I was using the free version. So you should be able to find. Let me put a list of different OCR here in the chat window, which can help you deciding that. Where's my chat window?
So I also posted a link in the chat. If you go through the documentation, there is a specific section which says handwritten text. So that is how UiPath document OCR behaves, and UiPath has something called extended language OCR as well. So for which languages handwritten text is supported with those OCRs. So if you're processing one of those languages, you can very well use UiPath document OCR or extended language OCR, which will be bundled as part of your document understanding entitlements, right? But if those doesn't suffice for the handwritten document that you're using, the language is not supported, then you need to buy other kind of OCR like Microsoft or Tesseract, whatever it is.
And I've also pasted in the chat window different kind of OCR. What are the free one? and what are the paid one. So depending upon that, you can choose that.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw another question in the chat about doing projects. So as part of this series, at this point, you don't need to do any projects. I'm not sure if we're doing that this session. I've done them with BA series before, but right now we're just going to go through the courses. We'll let you guys know what you need to do. The only thing you need to do to get a credential for this series is to do all of the self-paced content, and UiPath will automatically give you a training credit. When you get that training credit, if you feel confident that you've taken it, you're excited, and you want to get certified, you can reach out to me and let me know that you're interested in getting a certification voucher. And that's only going to be opened, that request that you finish everything by March 31st. So as of right now, we're not doing a project that you have to get up and present. You will see that in some of my series, but probably not this one. So you guys are good. If you have any more questions about that, just let me know. So great job today again. I think we're going to close there, and everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see you next Monday. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Uh-huh.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.